Okay, so in the next two chapters, we're going to be talking about vitamins. In chapter 12, our focus will be primarily on fat-soluble vitamins. And then in chapter 13, our focus will be on the water-soluble vitamins. And so, as usual, here's our list of learning objectives. I won't read them to you, but again, by the end of chapter 12, hopefully you can look back and recognize all of these. So let's jump into 12.1. And here we're going to talk about vitamins in general, and then we will switch our focus to just the fat-soluble vitamins. So vitamins, both fat-soluble and water-soluble, are essential dietary components. They are micronutrients. So these, again, are going to be nutrients that are required in small amounts. We can compare that to the macronutrients, which we've talked about throughout. Macronutrients are required in large amounts in our diet. Okay. Vitamins are organic molecules in that they are carbon-containing. And again, they are essential. Mostly. We will talk about a couple that are that our body can synthesize, but most are going to be essential, which means that we have to obtain these from our diet because, again, our bodies cannot synthesize them either at all or not in high enough quantities. If they are not in our diet, we would have a deficiency, so we would have too low of levels, and our health would decline. Okay, so that's how we know that these are essential for health. Vitamins have all kinds of different biological activity. As we go through each one, we'll talk about the role of each in the body. And a lot of this, we have good scientific evidence for, and then some we need more. Okay, so we'll point those out. Vitamins are involved in regulating body processes. Some are involved in energy metabolism. Some are involved in growth, development, maintenance of body tissues. Again, vitamins are supplied by the food that we eat. Both plant and animal sources will have specific vitamins. And if individuals, for whatever reason, aren't able to get proper amounts in their diet, there is also supplementation. Okay. So here's our list of fat and water-soluble vitamins. So our fat-soluble vitamins are going to be vitamins A, D, E, and K. Our water-soluble vitamins are going to include all of the B vitamins, which are thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, pantothenic acid, folic acid, vitamin B6, and vitamin B12, and then vitamin C. And so again, in this chapter, our focus will be on A, D, E, and K, and in chapter 13, our focus will be on the B vitamins and vitamin C. Okay. So into fat-soluble vitamins, a little bit farther. Fat-soluble vitamins, as we've stated before in earlier chapters, they are going to be absorbed in the intestine, specifically the small intestine, with dietary fat. So dietary fat is required for the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. About 40 to 90% of the vitamins that are ingested are absorbed under optimal conditions. Okay, so individuals who don't have any issues with absorbing dietary fat, they will be able to absorb dietary vitamins, fat-soluble dietary vitamins without a problem. Again, our list includes vitamins A, D, E, and K. After these fat-soluble vitamins are absorbed with fat in the small intestine, they will, just like lipids, they will end up in chylomicrons. Fats will be delivered to different cells in the body, and the remnants that contain fat-soluble vitamins end up going to the liver. And the liver is going to package these vitamins into lipoproteins, and then they will be delivered to cells throughout the body via the bloodstream. Okay, so there's a couple added steps here which we don't find in water-soluble vitamins, again, because they get absorbed with dietary fat. Okay, vitamins A, D, and E are not readily excreted from the body. Oftentimes, excess of these vitamins get stored either in the liver or in adipose tissue, so fat tissue. And so these vitamins, don't have to be consumed daily. because they are stored. Okay, if you overconsume some of these vitamins, they can build up to toxic levels. Okay, most likely to occur for vitamins A and D, not so much for vitamin E. And again, to get to toxic levels, these vitamins have to be taken in amounts, 5 to 10 times higher than their DRI. Okay, so again, we'll talk about toxicity for each individual vitamin coming up in the chapter. But again, vitamin K, we don't really need to worry about building up to toxic levels, but vitamins A and D specifically, we do. Okay. How about water soluble? So as the name implies, water soluble vitamins dissolve in water. They include vitamins C and the list of B vitamins. These are absorbed easily through the intestinal wall, again, of the small intestine. They have about a 90 to 100% absorption rate. They do not need fat for absorption. Okay, they're absorbed on their own, and they get delivered right through the bloodstream to the cells and tissues of your body. So they don't have those extra steps that fat-soluble vitamins do. These do not get stored in large amounts, and so there is not often a toxicity issue. They also get excreted pretty readily from the body. Because of this, because they don't get stored, these vitamins should be consumed on a regular basis, okay, so that levels don't run low. Okay, malabsorption. So again, vitamins have to be efficiently absorbed from the small intestine. If absorption is decreased, more must be consumed. Some things that inhibit proper absorption. So first off, fat malabsorption can cause poor absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. So individuals who don't have enough fat in their diet or have some type of condition in which fat absorption is inhibited. So for example, Crohn's disease, individuals with cystic fibrosis, individuals with celiac disease. All of those conditions are going to cause a fat malabsorption, which again can lead to poor absorption of our fat-soluble vitamins. Something else, alcohol abuse can lead to the malabsorption of some B vitamins. And then again, there are some diseases that may require dietary supplements to prevent deficiencies. So there definitely is a place for dietary supplements. We'll talk about that towards the end of the chapter. Okay, so on to 12.2. We're going to focus here specifically on vitamin A. So this is our first fat-soluble vitamin that we're going to go through. So vitamin A, again from food, comes in a couple of different forms. So there is what we call preformed retinoids, and so those include retinol, this first compound, retinol, the second compound, and retinoic acid. Okay. There are then other foods in which we ingest provitamin A, and those are called carotenoids, and here's our example, beta-carotene. You may have heard of that. Okay. The provitamin A, so carotenoids, including beta-carotene, have to first be converted into vitamin A. They can't be used directly, okay, where preformed vitamin A can be used directly. So all of these are in the vitamin A family. So again, many different forms. So the RDA varies with age and gender. So I gave you levels here for adult men and women. If we're talking about children or other age groups, pregnancy, different stages, these numbers are going to vary. So again, if you can think back to the beginning of this semester, when we used DRIs, remember Appendix J of our textbook that had RDAs, AIs, ULs for all of the different macro and micronutrients. You got to kind of think back to that. And so I pulled from there, again, just the RDAs for adult men and women, figuring that would be most of the people in the course, okay? But again, you can refer back to those references if you want to know for different age groups or different stages of life. Okay, so Vitamin A for men, the RDA is going to be 900 micrograms per day, and the RDA for women is going to be 700 micrograms per day. So notice that micrograms, it's a pretty small amount. Okay, I've got to kind of pay attention to the units. Sources of vitamin A, retinoids. So this is our preformed. Animal sources include liver, fish, eggs, and fortified milk. And then carotenoids, so this is our provitamin form. Plant sources include dark green, orange, and deep yellow fruits and vegetables. Okay, and so here in this chart, again, it's different food sources here on the y-axis, and on the x-axis tells us the percent daily value for vitamin A specifically. Okay, and so again, for women, we want around here, and for men, we want a little bit more. And so how can you meet that? A half a cup of sweet potato, is well over the required amount of vitamin A. So you can see we can get enough vitamin A daily pretty easily. A half a cup of carrots, same thing. Kale, a half a cup. So on and so forth. I wanted to get some animals. So, beef liver, huge amount of vitamin A. Cheddar cheese, good source. Fat-free milk, fortified milk, okay, good source. So it's not hard to get the recommended RDA for vitamin A. Again, having a varied diet full of fruits, vegetables is good, important. Okay, how about function? So we know the sources, we know the RDAs. What does vitamin A do? Okay, so vitamin A is important for growth and development. Animal studies have shown that vitamin A has a key role in embryonic development of eyes, limbs, the cardiovascular system, our nervous system, respiratory system, GI tract, and skin. So obviously very, very important. Lack of vitamin A during the early stages of pregnancy can result in birth defects and fetal mortality, higher rates of fetal mortality, so death. Okay. Vitamin A also has a role in cellular differentiation. And so cellular differentiation is when stem cells are triggered to develop into some sort of a cell. So for example, a stem cell in the area of the head might be triggered to develop into brain cells. Okay, so vitamin A has a role in proper cellular differentiation. How? So it plays a role in gene expression. So certain genes are turned on in certain cells, which causes them to develop into a specific type of cell with a specific job in the body. Okay, vitamin A has been shown again to be extremely important in this process, especially in areas such as the eye, specifically in the cornea and in the retina of the eye. Okay, so if we take a peek here at this picture, we can actually see those structures. So the cornea is going to be this clear structure at the front, in front of the pupil, which is where light passes through. The iris is the colored part of the eye. And then in back of that, we have the lens. We have these little ligaments here and muscles that are involved in regulating the shape of the lens. And then behind that, so kind of in the back part of the eye, we have a layer of tissue called the retina. Okay, and then we have the optic nerve here in the back, which leads to the optic chiasma and eventually to the brain. And in the retina, specifically, we have these cells called rods and cones, okay? And rods and cones are involved in vision, okay? So vitamin A, specifically one form called retinol, is needed in the retina of the eye. So it's needed for not just for proper development, but for proper vision. It enables us to see images and distinguish different colors. Okay, so without that, our vision is impaired. and we're not able to see different colors. Okay, immune function. Vitamin A has a lot of different jobs. So vitamin A is important for proper immune system function. It helps maintain the epithelium. So again, we mentioned this before, that it's really important for skin, not just skin kind of on the outside of us, but you can kind of think of the internal skin, the internal epithelium. That's where a lot of our immune system sits, or works, I should say. And so, again, vitamin A helps to maintain that epithelium, that barrier that protects us from the entry of pathogens, both on the outside of us and, again, like I said, on the inside of us. You're taking in air, food. You don't want pathogens, microorganisms that you might ingest to end up in your underlying tissue. And so again, that barrier lining your digestive tract, the barrier lining your respiratory tract is really important. Again, vitamin E is important for the function of that barrier. Okay, vitamin A has also been shown to assist in the development of T lymphocytes, which are key immune cells in our bodies. We've got T cells and B cells. T cells have been shown to require vitamin A for proper development. Okay. Okay. Your textbook mentioned this, and this is always interesting as well. We use vitamin A analogs in dermatology, and so individuals who have sun damage, so wrinkles, individuals who have cystic acne, that hasn't responded well to oral antibiotics or topical antibiotics. And then individuals that have psoriasis, which is an immune system disorder that causes chronic inflammation of the skin. In dermatology, we've found that vitamin A analogs help treat these conditions. And so you may have heard of retina A, retinol, or tretinoin is a common one, and then Accutane. And so retin A and tretinoin are both topical creams, again, that individuals can use to treat acne scarring, sun damage. And then Accutane is usually taken by individuals to treat acne, so cystic acne. So again, we've got vitamin A analogs that can be used in dermatology. Okay, and then I'll just mention carotenoids again. We mentioned this a few slides ago. So again, this is provitamin A that needs to be converted to vitamin A, not used directly. Again, we obtain carotenoids from plants, plants that are green, orange, are going to contain these compounds. So fruits and vegetables. We find that carotenoids may have additional functions. They may decrease the risk of certain eye diseases, cancers, and cardiovascular disease. But again, much more research is needed. Is it the carotenoids, in these foods, or is it the phytochemicals in these foods? So, again, more research is needed to figure out exactly what compounds and if they do have the effects. But they are suggested. Okay. And then to kind of sum this up, to take us through, proper intake of vitamin A, and then what happens if there's a deficiency or toxicity. So again, normal function with normal appropriate levels of vitamin A intake. Vitamin A is going to be involved in normal growth and development. It's going to be involved in proper vision, both black and white as well as color vision. Will be involved in cellular differentiation and gene expression, and again plays a role in immunity, maintaining epithelial barriers. Okay, what happens if we don't have enough vitamin A? So here are the list of deficiencies. So individuals not getting enough vitamin A in their diet will suffer from things like night blindness, not being able to see well at night. Follicular hyperkeratosis. So this is a skin issue in which individuals end up with kind of clogged follicles, hair follicles. This can happen really on any part of the body, but it's very common on the upper arms, upper legs, the buttocks region. Individuals who have this will have kind of bumpy skin. You could end up with kind of pussy plugs in those hair follicles, scaly, could be itchy, dry. And so again, individuals, it's uncomfortable. And so again, that's a skin condition. And then xerothalamia, I always have a hard time pronouncing that. That's just dry eyes. So again, vitamin A is important for the function of that cornea. And so individuals here will suffer from dry eyes, get red, itchy, and dry. And then lastly, if there's a real bad deficiency, blindness, and this could even lead to death. Okay, so optimal levels of vitamin A intake are important. And then toxicity. So the upper limit for vitamin A varies with age, but again, vitamin A can get stored. It's a fat-soluble vitamin that can get stored in the liver and in adipose tissue, and so there is an upper limit to it. Again, it varies with age. So again, I would have to refer you back to Appendix J of the textbook for those numbers, but for adults, the upper limit is 3,000 micrograms per day. Okay. And so what happens if you do have too much? It can, again, build up because it's stored. And acutely, gastrointestinal upset, nausea, headaches, dizziness, muscle uncoordination. Chronic, so if you have chronically high levels, this can lead to liver damage, hair loss, bone and muscle pain, loss of appetite, dry skin and mucous membranes, hemorrhaging, coma, fractures. And then it's also a teratogen, or it's teratogenic, okay? Which means in pregnant people, having more than is needed, you could end up with fetal malformation, so birth defects. And it could also cause spontaneous abortion. Okay, so very dangerous for pregnant women to exceed recommended daily doses. And again, at the other end of the spectrum here, we also have death. So having too little or extreme deficiency or extreme high amounts, either way, either end of that spectrum can lead to death. And that is it for this part of the chapter. In the next part, we'll start to talk about vitamin D, our second fat-soluble vitamin.